What's up, Wrap Shop Talk? My name is Brent Knott, and today we're going to be going over a video on how to set targets and objectives for 2025. And essentially, targets and objectives is replacing the word goals. And I'll explain later why I like to replace it with targets and objectives. But I was teaching a class in a community the other day, and I basically wanted to go through and do an overview of all the work that had been done prior throughout the entire year and call the entire group out on what was their non-negotiable target for the next year in 2025 that they were going to do to push the needle in either their life or their business to make 2025 the best year yet. And I found it very interesting because nobody actually would give me their goal first. I feel that we don't spend enough time in silence without distraction with ourselves to really understand what we want. We don't know what we want out of our business, what we want our business to do for us. And we don't even know what we want for ourselves. So, first, I highly recommend going on like a 3 or 4 hour walk with no music. And that sounds silly, but you get so bored on hour two and a half, that essentially all of your guard and common sense goes out the window and you start thinking very deeply. You get stripped away. It strips you of all self-defense mechanisms to distract yourself from your inner being. And it'll expose yourself as to actually what are some of your deeper thoughts? What are some of your deeper desires? Um, and I've experienced this time and time again with my long distance running. And so I highly recommend just finding some mechanism. It doesn't have to be walking, to spend enough time with yourself to think and ponder what is it in life and in business that you are actually striving for. And so as I asked these people they're non-negotiable, they basically gave me the story first of like why they were validating the reason for what their goal or their standard or their objective for the next year was. And I thought it was really curious because they were downplaying themselves. And I asked myself, why are they downplaying themselves? This is a big deal. And the deeper that I thought into it, and I really pondered it for a while, and I actually thought about it a lot during my last 100-mile event, is that the person we spend the most time with is ourself. And so a lot of us, unfortunately, have lost faith or trust in ourselves because we say that we're doing something for some reason and it's a lie. Or we say we're going to get fit this year and we don't, and we lie to ourselves, and our brain keeps count that we lied to ourselves. And then it's just like, yeah, you say that, but you're not really going to do that. That's what your internal dialogue, your internal confidence starts to do to yourself. So the first thing I highly recommend is just identifying what you really want and make it non-negotiable. Just pick one. Pick one thing and stick to it for 90 days, 6 months, whatever it may be, and earn that confidence back. And then start to do one more thing, and then stack on one more thing and one more thing. And that's why the running has been so good for me, is because it started off as I hate doing it and I do it every single day. And it built my confidence that I know that I'll always do the things that I hate doing to achieve what I want, right? Now I've started, oddly enough, kind of enjoying the feeling. I still don't like running, but I enjoy the feeling that I receive in that time with myself. And I'm going to tell you a story about why setting goals and taking action on it and why sitting with yourself enough is important. We are at the end of the year. I just spent one entire year out of my business after being a slave to my business for 12 years. I was going to spend one more year in my business to then get out of my business, was my original plan. And I'm out at a mastermind event with the real business owners, and I'm on a run with Trevor, the owner of the company. And we were talking about my goals next year. And I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed our trip to Mexico. I think I want to live internationally within the next year or so. And I just need to prepare some things in my business first. And he said, why the hell are you going to wait for a year? I was like, I'm not sure what you mean. He's like, well, all the problems that you're solving right now are the problems that are right now and because you're there. But the problems that you're going to need to fix because you are gone will not reveal themselves until you're gone. So if you feel that you have enough baseline in your business and you have an operator that you trust to run in place of you, it's best for you to go ahead and just take action on it now. And so I did. And I did a 2-week test, I did a month test, I did a 2-month test, and now I have lived legitimately out of the States, and I have not visited my shop but one time in the last 365 days. It's actually been more than that. I don't know the exact timeline, but essentially the point is time is non-refundable. I would have lost a whole nother year thinking that I was preparing for something and I wasn't. So get very intentional with whatever it is that you want, because you might be amazed what's on the other side of what you are capable of as long as it's very intentional. So what are your goals? You know, are you wanting to work on the business but not in it? Well, what are you going to do about that? Like, that's a very big thing. It's also very generic. So if you're going to work on the business, not in the business, many people want to just be 100% on the business and not in the business at all, but that's impossible. So if you can't work on your business for 1 hour a day for 365 days, then you don't deserve to work on the business for 8 hours a day, because you're not actually working on the business. You just want people to work for you and you only reap a benefit for doing nothing. And that's just the unfortunate fact. Is it that you want to increase your sales? Well, what are you going to do? Increasing sales can be done 10 different ways a Sunday. Do you need to hire a salesperson? Do you need to do the sales yourself? What is the mechanism that's going to increase your sales and by how much? And then reverse engineer the math back on that. Are you trying to double the business? I am next year. Well, how am I going to do that? Very specifically, I've done the math. I feel that I need 2 sales representatives that are doing about $500,000 in revenue each. And what it's going to take is approximately minimum 50 phone calls a day and a very strategic approach to cold outreach sales, as well as turning the dial on our marketing in the local demographic that we're in. And we've been testing that this whole year. Now we might double our ad spend to see if our efforts actually make sense in that regard. But that's the only way I can double. I can't double by having the same staff in my business and just increasing the marketing. I wouldn't have the administrative power to actually close the sales. Now, obviously, once you sell it, you present the problem of production, but I would rather deal with a predictable sales pipeline than to have all of production filled out, standing around waiting for me to figure out how to close the sales. So the only thing that I'm focused on next year is filling that pipeline massively. Is it to spend more time with the family? Well, maybe you should start strategically taking off on Friday at least once a month, or taking off on a Monday once or twice a month. What does that do? Maybe you work from home. It's not that you're not working, but maybe you work from home. In doing that, what you're doing is you're allowing your team the opportunity to expand and grow. They're now having to make decisions. They now have customers that are coming to them and asking the questions that you would typically answer, but they are having to deal with the front of that customer. They now know and have their eyes open to all the other dealings of the business potentially. And then somebody on the team most likely will step up and reveal to you that they have what it takes to help you stay home once or twice a month. And that can grow. And that's how you're eventually going to become a business owner rather than just an installer that's a slave and entrapped in your own business. Now I want to talk about targets and objectives over the word goal. Now, they're really the same thing. This is semantics and splitting hairs, but because our brain remembers that we missed a goal, it treats it as a failure, because A goal is the end towards which effort is aimed, right? Whereas if we have an objective, but let's just use shooting, for example, if you're shooting a rifle at a target at long range and you shoot and you land low and to the left, you typically, if as long as it's decently sighted in, you would see kind of where it landed. And that where it landed is the feedback that you have now. The target didn't go anywhere, it's still there. $1 million in sales is still in the same spot where it was when you failed, but you have to attack it again. And so now I'm going to aim up and to the right a little bit and shoot again. And I'm going to take a good stab at it. And I'm going to keep embarrassing myself, and I'm going to keep humiliating myself, and I'm going to keep making mistakes and firing people because I failed to lead them, or whatever the thing is that the feedback is telling you in your business that you need to do for whatever the goal is, until you hit the target. And then when you do, you make sure that you stay on target from then and onwards. But you need the feedback to navigate, because it's not a straight shot, unfortunately. And so goals start with the end in mind, whereas this game is infinite, which is also where people get a little hung up, is because there's so many options. Now, I just had a call with a guy today where he's like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. Like, and he's like he's piping off. He's highly educated. He listens to books every single day, and he's actually very much in a situation that I was in 3 to 4 or 5 years ago. And that's basically, he's in a state of mental masturbation. He is all listen, all education, and no action. And so I paused him. I got him to say, like we dug deeper into a situation. What is it that you want? Do you want more time with your family? And he said, because, we dug deeper, and he said, yes. I was like, well, what do you need in order that to happen? He goes, well, I do need another installer, and I need another this. And so we ran a couple scenarios where he had no staff and he only had contracted staff. And come to find out, he was scared to relinquish money to hire contracted help in his business to do the job. It wasn't that he had the ego that I had to do the job. It was more that the money he was scared to let go. So we did the math. What are you selling it for? $4,800 for color change. What would you pay a contractor to do it? He's like, well, the contractor locally wants to charge me $1,250 for it. And I was like, if your contractor's charging you $1,250 and you're charging $4,800 and a roll costs $750, you still have tons of meat on the bone. I don't have the math in front of me, but essentially it was like a 50 to 60% gross profit, right? And I was like, if you did 3 of those a week and you didn't do anything, and you could be at home with your family and you took home this, could you live on X? And he was like, yes. I was like, okay. Well, that's obviously not going to happen tomorrow, nor do you have 3 color change artists immediately, but you have 1. So what if you installed 1 vehicle a week like you're already doing, but you also let go of some money and you hired this color change guy to do this? Okay, cool. You've got production figured out without needing to have a hiring process. You don't need to have training program, nothing. Like, all that extra stuff is a part of growing your business, but right now you're not there. What do you need to do next year in order to spend more time with your family? And he was like, and get out of, some debt, et cetera, some liabilities that he has. And he goes, well, I guess I need more sales. I was like, exactly. So then what is the thing that you're going to put on your refrigerator that you're going to look at, and that's the only lever you're going to think about pulling for the rest of next year? And he's like, I don't know. I said, you just need 1 more car a week. You're at, let's just call it $250,000, $300,000 in sales. 1 more car a week at $4,850. Let's do the math real fast. $4,850 times 52 is $252,000. So you mean to tell me that this guy's going to double his business utilizing a contract? And now, obviously, it's not that easy, but the point is he can solve the other problems later. If he has a predictable sales funnel and he actually sells 1 more car every single week, that's the only thing you're focused on, is I want to do my job and sell 1 more car a week, he doubles his business. Boom, $500K in revenue. That's more than a lot of people out there. It's not that complex. We just make it harder than what it is because we validate business is supposed to be hard. I actually think it's a detriment to be intelligent in business because we think that we got to solve all these problems, but really it's just a simple fundamental thing that we need to do. Solve one problem, create a new problem to solve. That's it. And so if he adds one more car a week, he's going to double his business. He can have one contractor for sure. But what if that guy's busy? Okay, fine. Then you network and solve that problem, but you don't need to worry about hiring help just yet. You want to make sure that you can consecutively do that. Now, if that's proof, now you have the additional funds to bring in a trainee to train them up while still leveraging the contractor until they're not needed anymore. Now, next step, get 3 per week. And you leverage the contractor again while you still have your help and you're doing your car. Cool, until you decide that you want to slowly move yourself out of the picture. So a lot of us, when we're setting our goals, some of us don't even set them high enough because we only see the end in mind. We don't think about what is the next step. If you can just figure out the next step, don't worry about all the noise that you're going to hear by creating that goal. Just figure out what the next step is and shoot at that target, get feedback, figure out what you need, shoot at it again until you got it down pat. So if you do this process, essentially the objective is telling you, did I do or did I not do? Yes or no. Because if you need more sales, either I hired the salesperson or I made the contact points myself, or I didn't, and therefore I'm not going to reach my goal. And then you can be accountable, et cetera. And the feedback is you just need to make the contact points. Now, if you're making the contact points and you're still not closing sales, then the feedback is maybe I need some sales training, or why aren't people choosing to go with me? Is it my price is too high? Is it too low? You start to get into an investigative phase. You need to set your targets or your goals, whatever you want to call them. Let them be your North Star. Don't look at them as failure. They're not failure when you fail, they're feedback. And when you fail, take that feedback, make adjustments, re-inject it and deploy it back into your business to solve for that problem or receive more feedback to continue that loop until it goes. Business is boring. It's really not that complicated, but it's incredibly boring and mundane. And we just need to keep repeating this process intentionally until we get the results that we desire. So spend more time with yourself, set some actual intentional goals or targets, get the feedback from, making mistakes, slipping, falling, humiliating yourself, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just keep trying, be curious until it clicks. And then when it clicks, solve the problem. You're going to create a new problem for that. And then start rinse and repeating over and over again until you have what you desire.